Hello, it's Stewart A. Swerdlow, back from a long trip.
And Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow, so grateful he's back.
Well, this is expansions.com, and this is our news broadcast for the first week in September 2012. And some of you may have read on the site about my adventures in Iceland, England, Morocco, Ireland, and Scotland. And by the way, I was made an honorary Scotsman, and I understand that there's a movement to try to make me a new leader and emperor of Scotland because of the information that I brought them. So I do welcome that.
Well, you know what? I was really hoping you'd wear the kilt, because there is a new movement to redefine masculinity where men wear dresses.
I have posted on the website, I believe it was maybe in Q&A, that if there is enough request, I will wear a kilt at the conference at the end of this month in September, and if it's a windy day, you might just get a bonus.
Well, was that like Prince Philip's bonus?
Well, but let's not even discuss that, because really he needed more support than he got. So anyway, about my trip, as you know, my plane caught on fire between Scotland and Iceland.
Drama, drama, drama. And
that was a little bit of a scary thing, but you know what? The ultimate protection saved the day, and we were able to land in Keflavik. And of course the fire brigade and the emergency crews were running over to the left wing engine. Of course I took pictures of that, which I will post sometime on the website. But fortunately,
I think that goes on the gold member side, if I recall.
That will go on the gold member side, and I will also be doing a little bit of a travelogue about my experiences. And England was quite interesting. I had a very long road trip from Manchester to Bath and Oxford and Stonehenge and Birmingham. Very, very interesting, and I'll be writing about that and discussing that also.
On the gold member side.
On the gold member side, and maybe even, and of course also in the OMG. And Morocco was also interesting. I learned a lot of information and possible connections between the Vikings and the Moors, and also a possible connection with you and your family, as far as the Waldensians are concerned. And somewhere between England and Ireland, my backpack is missing. So any of you happen to be sailing on the Irish Sea, and you happen to see a backpack floating around, please pick it up and send it back to me, because it's missing somewhere. And so much for the British Postal Service.
Well, that's what happened to Pope, what was it, Pope John Paul's vial of blood I was telling you about. It was in some priest's backpack, and that also went missing, so maybe you had some relic in there.
Well, fortunately, my vials of blood are kept by the government, so they're not floating around anywhere. But back to some serious news, actually. Let me get to some of the seismic activity first, and that is that a dome of lava has been detected underneath the island of Santorini in the Mediterranean. As you may know, Santorini was the home of the Minoan civilization, which was destroyed when the volcano, the island actually is the top of a volcano, and it blew up, destroying the entire civilization. And now a magma dome has been reported underneath Santorini. So all those of you on the Greek islands, be a little bit concerned. Also in Beverly Hills last week, there were 2 earthquakes, and this was along a fault line that actually erupted in 1933 in Long Beach, and the fault line goes all the way up into Beverly Hills, so there's some activity, and it's been about 70 years since that has happened on that particular fault line. And so much for the predictions of global warming and a warm winter for Alaska, which was reported or predicted just a few days ago, because 2 days ago the first snow in Alaska fell on the Denali Peninsula. So here it is, early September and snowing in Alaska, and yet they're predicting a mild winter for Alaska. So very interesting how things turn around. Now,
September 1st, it was snowing in the Alps up in Rora.
oh, was it?
Yeah,
Oh, it's
got a
good
picture.
thing we didn't stay there.
Yep.
Now, there is something going around called Google Glass or glasses, which is a headset which you can wear, and it imposes. It's like you can see the images of the internet right in front of you on the glasses that you're wearing. This seems to be going around and will be part of the new virtual reality that they will present to the public very, very shortly. A lot of famous people were testing it out at New York Fashion Week, and people like Sarah Jessica Parker and Sergey Brin and others who were wearing these glasses, and you can actually get internet images right there in front of your face, almost like holographic images. So that is coming up probably in the very near future too. You can order it with your internet service. There have been questions about, when I was in Scotland, there was the murder of the British Iraqi family in the French Alps in the province of Savoie, which is where your family comes from. And of course there were the French family, the mother, father, and possible mother-in-law were shot to death, and a French cyclist nearby was also shot to death. And the 7-year-old daughter of the murdered couple was badly beaten and also shot, but she survived, although she's in very serious condition. And the 4-year-old little girl hid underneath her mother's legs for hours until the scene was found. Was it a robbery? Was it a feud over inheritance, as some people have said? Was it a case of mistaken identity? However, a cyclist nearby said he saw a green 4x4 vehicle and a motorbike near the site of the killings. Now, this is the cyclist who came upon the body and reported the crime. But isn't it interesting that this very cyclist who found the bodies is a former member of the Royal Air Force, and he just happened to be cycling by. Now, the murdered man in the car is an Iraqi-born engineer who lived in the south of London with his family. He worked at Surrey Satellite Technology, which is a very high-tech company owned by EADS, the aerospace corporation that builds satellites. So I'm telling you, there is a big connection here between why these people were murdered and what this man did for a living, and why did his mother-in-law, well, they think she's his mother-in-law,
or if that's who
why
she is.
did she have a Swedish passport? That's interesting. Now, I was doing some research online, and you know how you always get these comments and you have to look for them, and I just found this one comment from a person who said it was a hit. The husband was an expert on centrifuges and had contacts with the Iranian government, and it was probably a hit by the Mossad. Now, that's possible speculation. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's something to think about. This was not an accident. This was not a robbery. This was a specific hit on these people, and thank goodness they left the children alive. And one other thing I want to talk to you about is that I found some information online about what they consider to be evidence that the United States is turning into a prison camp, or being turned into a giant prison. And one of the evidences is that a new bill that's going through the U.S. Senate would allow the U.S. military to arrest American citizens and hold them indefinitely without trial. And that's what they're doing to the people at Guantanamo in Cuba. Then U.S. Senator Joe Lieberman, not one of my favorites, is asking Google to install a terrorist button on all blogger.com blogs so that the readers can flag the terrorist content for authorities. So basically asking all Americans to become spies on each other. No freedom of speech. If you're suspected of anything that's anti-government, press the button and the FBI will come and pay you a visit.
You know, after 9/11 they kind of did that, but they told people to tell everybody if they saw strange things, if they were getting weird packages, and I had a postman,
Yeah,
in
I remember.
fact, ask me, because we were mailing out so many things, what the deal was, and it was a little disturbing.
Well, and they still do that, and also that there are American schools where RFID chips are being used to monitor the attendance and movements of children while they're at school, so that your children are being monitored every room they go into. Well, it's not a bad thing to watch where these children are going, but of course these chips are going to be taken home, and they'll watch everyone at home. Now, here's something that's interesting about how things are being taken out of context. A little girl in Florida in school kissed a little boy in her elementary school, and it was considered to be a sex crime, and the school called the police on this little girl. So it's pretty scary what's going on. And here's something I didn't know about. U.S. border agents are allowed by law to search any laptop brought into the United States, even without needing a reason to do so. So I'm assuming that means even if you arrive from overseas at a U.S. airport, they can look at your laptop and see what's on there. And according to the FBI Director Robert Mueller, everyone is a potential terrorist and a threat to national security, so everyone needs to be monitored. And he's also saying, if you call a radio talk show and get on the air, you could be recorded by the FBI. And the FBI has awarded a $525,000 contract to a Virginia company to record as much radio news and talk programming as it possibly can find on the internet, so that it could find potential evidence against people. And the federal government has decided that people should spy on one another on Facebook and on Twitter, so that it can prevent any threats to national security. The FBI can demand to see your cell phone data whenever it wants. It's perfectly legal. And here's something here in Michigan which is disturbing. The state police in Michigan are using extraction devices to download data from cell phones of motorists that they pull over. So they have a device that they can aim at your cell phone and download everything on there.
Did they say why?
Well,
just if they
because
feel
you're
like
a potential terrorist. If to pull you, if you're speeding, maybe you're a terrorist. You know, maybe you just planted a bomb somewhere. And you better keep ID on you, all you people that you're walking around, because if police come over to you or some authority comes over and asks for an ID and you don't have it, you're in trouble. And an example is a 21-year-old college student named Samantha Zucker was recently arrested and put in a New York City jail for 36 hours just because she could not produce any identification for the police. So, identity cards, people, Nazi Germany, Soviet Union, China, no different in the United States. And here's something that's pretty safe for little entrepreneurs out there. Over the past year, police have been sent in to shut down lemonade stands run by children all over the United States. I guess lemonade could be used for terrorist activity, I suppose. And as far as organic foods, there's food police out there, what they're calling government food tyranny. They conducted a raid on the Quail Hollow Farms, which is an organic community in southern Nevada, and during its farm to fork picnic. And the agent who arrived on the scene ordered that all the fresh local produce and pasture-based meat that was intended for the meal be destroyed with bleach.
But did they say why?
No explanation why. I guess it's up to the discretion of these brilliant, doctorate level agents that come to look at the food. Now, there is also a report from the state of Missouri. Now, this is the state of Missouri, says that the following types of people may be potential terrorists. According to Missouri, a terrorist can be an anti-abortion activist, those that are against illegal immigration, those that consider the New World Order to be a threat, and those that have a negative view of the United Nations. Well, Missouri, the show me state, you're showing me bad things here, Missouri, and I really am very surprised at you, and that's why your state also can be pronounced misery. Now, here's another thing that's going on. You are, by the FBI and Homeland Security, can be considered a potential terrorist if you are feeling a little nervous, because they're using cameras and sensors now for what they're calling, in quotes, pre-crime system measures that tracks a person's body movements, the pitch of their voice, and the rhythm of their speech, so that if you fall into some category just by that, you are a potential terrorist and they will check you. And old news, but something worth repeating, the United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world and the largest total prison population on the entire globe. That's more than China and Russia and Cuba combined. So, very interesting information here. And that's what I got for today.
All right, well, I've got a bunch of other stuff here to kind of flush out, so to speak. But I do want to bring out one of the articles that just here was announced here within the last couple of days, that it says the FBI is to roll out a $1 billion public facial recognition system in 2014.
Well, I'd recognize faces for half of that.
Yeah, it says that it's going to use biometric data such as DNA analysis, iris scans, voice identification to track down folks with criminal history and, of course, people of interest. They plan to take it on the road literally by using public cameras to pick faces from the crowd and cross-check them with its national repository of images. And it says, from the article, let's just say this facial technology isn't going to be used for light-hearted hijinks or unlocking your electronic device. The use and scope of this program, which kicked off a pilot program in February, will likely be questioned not just by black helicopter watchers but privacy advocates. Facial recognition has certainly been a touchy issue in privacy circles, something Facebook learned firsthand in Germany. So I think that's pretty scary.
I agree.
$1 billion, so it's not going to go away overnight. All right, now let me get back to the beginning of my news, because I've got a bunch of good stories here for you, and you missed some great ones while you were gone.
Well, listen, I lived great stories while I was away, okay? Let me tell you.
Well, I know.
I got food poisoning in Morocco.
Yeah. Well, we don't
Don't eat the food in Morocco.
All right, we have a little bit of Obama news. Now, this was kind of interesting because apparently back in 1964, Ronald Reagan gave a speech, president at the time. And in that speech, he says, "You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We will preserve for our children this last best hope of man on earth, or we will sentence them to take the first step into 1,000 years of darkness." And apparently this was for presidential candidate Barry Goldwater, who eventually lost to Lyndon Johnson. Now, Chuck Norris, most of you are aware of this actor, he has now issued a dire warning, claiming that U.S. citizens face again, quote, 1,000 years of darkness if President Obama is reelected for a second term in November. So my feeling is that they're warning us, they're telling us.
Well, not that he'll be elected, but he'll be reappointed and placed in position.
Correct.
But isn't it interesting about the 1,000 years of darkness?
Yes.
Because that's what the book of Revelation says, that Satan will be loosened for 1,000
Yes.
years. So there's a lot of New World religion triggering in
Right.
that statement.
And because it started with President Ronald Reagan saying, of course we know he was an actor who was appointed as president, so to speak. So just kind of interesting. Then, of course, I've been telling you all about the Hitler stuff in the news. Well, I don't know if any of you are aware of it, but there's an Indian clothing shop in, of course, the country of India, where a man who owned the store named it Hitler. Now, apparently, Hitler is spelled in large letters, and over the I, it's dotted with a swastika. And the man claims that he knew nothing about Hitler, but it was some kind of a family nickname for the other co-owner of the store. The Jewish shoppers, of course, say that the proprietors knew what the name means and what Hitler stood for. They had researched it well, right from the dress the dictator wore right down to his cufflinks. And the Jewish community had suggested a different design, but the owners wanted to keep it. Now, those of you out there who are in the know may realize that the Nazi swastika symbol actually takes inspiration from the Hindu symbol, which was commonly regarded as a sign of good luck. So now they're mixing these two things together.
And in India, you can see swastikas painted on cars and buses. That has nothing to do with Nazism. It has to do with their ancient religion for good luck and fortune.
Yes.
And in fact, when I was in Nepal, there was a temple that had a big swastika on it, and next to it was a Star of David, right next to it, both of them in stone, because they're both symbols of those ancient times.
Yes, and so now they're mixing that symbol of ancient time with Hitler. And it said Hitler's anti-Semitic manifesto, Mein Kampf, remains a bestseller in India. So I thought that was kind of a peculiar combination of things. And then, however, in Israel, there is a book that promotes killing any non-Jew. And this book apparently is moving into the bestseller list. And it says that a Jewish rabbi has issued a book giving Jews permission to murder non-Jews, including babies and children, who may pose an actual or potential threat to Jews of Israel. Or Israel, I'm sorry. And apparently he argues that goyim, which is a derogatory term for non-Jews, that would be...
That'd be you.
That would be me.
Yeah, you're goyim.
That's right. That I can be killed...
Or you're a golem, one of those, I don't remember.
I can be killed, if maybe both, killed if they threaten Israel. So apparently human beings in the Bible, according to Jewish law, refers solely to Jews. So we're kind of putting things at different polarities here. We've got the Jews, we've got the Hitlers, we've got the Indians. You know,
there's something for everybody.
Yeah, pulling things around. Of course, here in the U.S., you're talking about what's going on in the U.S., and really I think it's starting to scare people even to travel to the U.S.
I'm scared. I don't want to come back here even.
Now, the latest thing, I'm sure most of you have heard this by now, is that the government urged citizens to prepare for a zombie apocalypse as part of a public health campaign to encourage better preparation for genuine disasters and emergencies. Because their feeling is if you're prepared for a zombie attack, you can survive any disaster.
I'm always prepared for a zombie attack.
So they want to get that word out there because that's what they're turning you into, obviously. And it says that the government's suggestions have tracked closely with some of the 33 rules for dealing with zombies that were popularized in the 2009 movie called Zombieland, which included always carry a change of underwear and when in doubt, know your way out. So they're moving these rules from this movie into real life. And so it's starting to be like a real life Disneyland here. It's not even being a real place where we're, you know, in our right mind. Now, if you remember, those of you here in the U.S., it's not been that long ago that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released a couple of tongue-in-cheek zombie warnings, which were actually disaster preparedness stunts, but then they had to come back and say zombies don't exist. And, quote, it says the CDC, meaning the Centers for Disease Control, does not know of a virus or condition that would reanimate the dead or one that would present zombie-like symptoms. So the thing is, again, they're putting this out, and usually if they want it to go away, they don't mention it at all. They want to bring it forward, then they start talking about it. So after...
Well, of course, zombie would be a trigger to go into an altar that is controlled by others and has no emotions or feelings towards people.
Absolutely. And it said that after the CDC mentioned this publicly, then that was the zombie apocalypse was the third most popular search term after the announcement was made in early June on Google. So they're monitoring, like you said, they are monitoring what you're doing, how you're doing. Okay, and then of course, what do we have? We have a copy of Frankenstein that belonged to Lord Byron and features an inscription by its author, Mary Shelley, discovered in a family library. Surprise, surprise. Expected to sell for about 400,000 Great British pounds at auction. So I just saw it lying on a shelf, the founder said. On opening it, I saw the title page, recognized what it was, and now he's putting it for auction. So again, putting this out into public mind. Okay, and speaking of mind control, the Chinese researchers have now unveiled a system that allows users to control drones with their thoughts. So they can sit there and look at something and make it move. And they're claiming that they're going to be using this technology to help handicapped people who can't reach things. So, you know, again, that's telling you if this is what they can do, you know, on the public, think what they're doing behind the scenes. And then now this I thought was a kind of a fascinating thing. We have Conjoined Twins who are now a reality show. Everything and everybody's a reality show, obviously.
I don't have a reality show.
Well, I'm thinking under these conditions, maybe it's a good thing. But, you know, maybe some of you have seen them out there on the internet. Abby and Brittany Hensel says are unusually close. It says they share the same body and they have two heads. So when you look at them, they are one body with two heads. Although it says they have two separate hearts, lungs, and stomachs, among other organs, but they share the same liver. And looking at them, it's, you know, maybe, maybe not. Each twin is responsible for one side of the body, which means they have to learn to coordinate their movements subconsciously. So when we think about why this is being put out publicly, it has to do with merging. Remember, we're now in the process of what's the collider's name in Switzerland?
Oh, Hadron Collider.
Yeah, Hadron Collider that's working on merging reality lines. We're looking at alters, okay? Which head are you looking at? Who's talking? So that's going to be triggering to people.
And also to bring in non-human looking beings.
Yes.
Because that's coming up soon too.
That's right. And people who look, I said, different too as well. Now then they go the other direction, which is of course separation, which we found there's a new thing called a Hug Me jacket, and I thought these clothes actually are by designer Sai Chan, who also has designed hands that hug other parts of the bodies. I'm not even going to tell you where, but take a look at these photos and you'll see. Then they have a Hug Me pillow, which shows just an arm and half of a torso. And what are we seeing in real life? We're seeing people beheading each other. We're seeing torsos being found. They found a young man in the desert in Arizona recently with his hands cut off. You know, so all kinds of things are happening where they're separating you out physically, which means they're separating your mind into pieces. Then there's a third earring. So you can't tell if the person has a new ear growing there or...
Third ear meaning...
It's actually an earring that looks like
an ear?
An ear that you put onto your regular ear. And what else are they doing? They're growing ears on rats and laboratory mice. So something's going on out there. And again, we want to take a look at other species, alien species that might be showing up. And then we have the Sexting Sculpture, which some of you may have heard about in Kansas. In Overland Park Arboretum, there is a female, a sculpture of a female, and it's called Accept or Reject, which again was donated by a Chinese artist. This one's named Yu Cheng, which depicts a headless woman with exposed they call it pert breasts, snapping a self-portrait, but the camera is angled at her breasts. And this is in the middle of a park where women and families go with their children. So it's, you know, things to think about. Now, if you're in a bad mood, we don't want to leave the guys out. Now, this was, again, the title of an article. If you're in a bad mood...
Where do you find these things? I mean, seriously, I have to monitor your internet usage.
Yeah, probably don't worry. The government's, I'm sure, doing it for you.
I'm going to put some kind of control over that.
Because it's important that you understand semen ingestion is common in sexual ritual. And I think you wrote about that.
Privately, not on a podcast.
The book is out there for the whole public, so it's not really private. Or maybe it is private semen. All right, so in a bad mood, have some semen. This is what this article says. And again, I'm so
sorry, people. Forgive, she doesn't know what she's doing.
It says that semen contains mood-altering chemicals. With all the chemical antidepressants, why would you want that if you could have semen? It says, seems nature has a powerful one for us all along, which is the semen. A new study shows, quote unquote, the man goo can have a positive effect on a woman's mental health.
I think it had an effect on your health.
Well, where would I get that?
I don't know.
SUNY Albany, the more you open your mouth, the more you're going to get yourself in trouble. Oh. SUNY Albany has been doing some very curious research as the university's latest study points to the amazing healing powers of human seminal fluid, aka semen. Quote, it's known to contain such mood-altering chemicals as, it says estrone.
Yeah, that's one of the estrogens.
Okay, and oxytocin, which elevate mood, cortisol, which promotes affection, serotonin, which acts as an antidepressant, and melatonin, which induces sleep, all from semen. It says, in a survey of 300 women, researchers found that those women who engaged in oral sex or unprotected sex were happier than those who practiced safe sex. Now, this is kind of curious, as it says at the bottom. You also want to know the women who regularly practiced safe sex were found to be just as depressed as those who were abstinent, in case you want to know.
That's why the nuns look like that.
I guess. Well, we don't know though about them, so that's questionable. Okay, now this is a curious paragraph they added. It says, this is hardly a license to run out and have unprotected sex with strangers. Like, who said that anybody was even going to do that?
That's what I got out of it.
Right. STDs are a major problem. Using a condom is the best way to protect against infection. But it says a healthy dose of semen every now and then might keep the blues away, because there's nothing as depressing as contracting a bad case of chlamydia or worse. See, none of this makes sense. Why do you think they're throwing that out there?
I'm just going to monitor your papers before you go on the podcast from now on.
Well, wait till I show you the next one.
Oh, God.
It gets worse. In fact, I think it continues. Yeah, it does.
First, one week you had 3 breasts on some woman. Now you have this story.
We should have been last week when we had breast squeezing for charity.
People, I'm so sorry. I will have to ban podcasts when I'm not here. That's just it.
All right, now we have manipulated photos of female genitalia, which has won Argentina's highest advertising prize. It's a provocative ad campaign for lingerie company. Get the name of this, Jane Payne, P-A-I-N, Payne, Jane Payne. It features manipulated photos of female genitalia with the tagline, what you can't see is all you want to see. This campaign won the 2012 Lapis de Oro.
Lapis de Oro. Please pronounce properly.
Lapis?
Yeah, it means golden pencil.
Okay, Argentina's highest advertising prize. So that's what's out there, people. That's coming. It says the photos show models with their legs splayed open, and the image is sliced up so viewers don't see any genitalia. Okay, got that?
I got it.
Okay. Then, moving right along, we have incest. Now remember, they're bringing everything out. I talked to you about bestiality. I mean, if you want to know sex stuff, and someone wrote on one of the comments, you know, why is Janet doing this? It's all sensational. Really? The point being is that this is what's being planned for you, and because programming goes into you via sexuality, and because New World religion is being planned for you, all of this is part of it. And I want you to see how they're playing these different corners, and they're going to bring it all together for you in ways that the only one of you who are going to know is if you've read our stuff. Because nobody else is telling you this stuff the way that we are.
They're ashamed to say those words.
Yeah, well, they shouldn't be. It's part of life. All right, now, here we have Nick Cassavetes, who says there is no problem with incest. He says incest isn't a big deal. He compares it to gay marriage and asks who give a damn. Because this man, apparently he's a director who directed The Notebook and Alpha Dog, debuted his controversial new movie this weekend, but it says that his comments may outshine the project itself. So I didn't think it was worth telling you the details. Just the fact they're putting out incest now, and who cares who you love, basically. That's what he's telling you. And of course, we do know the royals are all intermarried, right? The Illuminati are all intermarried. So now, what about incest? They used to marry each other's cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever it took to preserve their hold on global wealth and power. And they still do. So now we know incest is not a problem. Okay, now, while you were gone, of course, you probably heard about Prince Harry's antics.
Yeah, okay. I heard more about it just his antics, though.
Yeah, his antics.
He showed some of his antics.
He did show those. So, and you and I were talking about that a little bit more because you had another...
Oh, you know what they called it in England? It was so funny. They called it bits and bobs.
That's cute.
What?
Well, they called Prince Philip's thing something about his dong.
She showed his bits and bobs, they said. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, now the Afghan Taliban, because now he's been sent to Afghanistan to run missions or whatever. The Afghan Taliban said they're doing everything in their power to try to kidnap or assassinate Britain's Prince Harry, who arrived in Afghanistan last week to fly attack helicopters, as opposed to Prince William, who was sent to rescue people. I remember we talked about, we have the good one and we have the bad one. We had Jimmy Carter's, remember we had his brother. You know, so we have the good and the bad. But remember we were talking about... you were saying about how the sexual ritual now is being bumped up, so I'd like for you to tell them what you were discussing with me.
Well, I think that the whole thing was staged. I don't think that he was surprised that the nude pictures were taken of him. I think he posed for them. And that is because if you read my book, 13 Cubed, The True Reality of Sexuality, you know that the God in a sexual ritual is very important. And for over 1,000 years, the God was usually a very lesser person in the elite category, so that the kings and queens had to obey the god and ritual. So now they want a royal member to become the god and ritual, so in fact they take over the ritual ceremony, and there is no other person in charge of it but the royals.
Yeah, so I just think that's all interesting when we start putting things together. Because there are no accidents out there. When it's in the press, there's a reason. We just have to figure out what that reason is. Okay, redefining masculinity. I talked to you about that last week, about how that's being changed to the bronies and a billion other ways. Now we have a young man, and this is all splashed all over the internet, who went to Nanny School, and I didn't know there were such things. Yeah. For 120 years, Norland College has trained young women to be professional caretakers of children. 18-year-old Michael Kenny is now the first person who embarked on getting one of his degrees, along with 48 women at this world-renowned school in Bath.
I was just in Bath.
You were just there. The degree costs $88,644. So you can imagine what these people make if they're going to be paying that much to go to school.
Proper nanny, they call them.
Right. Now, these are going to be called mannies. Rather than a nanny, this is going to be called a manny.
Do you get to drink their semen?
These days, who knows? It says that nannies for hire saw a 10% increase in male nannies from 2011. Now, how much do these make? I will tell you, $180,000 a year.
Maybe that should be a manny.
They make more than we do, so I think maybe that might not be a bad thing. So if you're looking for employment, guys and women out there, hey, $180,000 a year.
Well, I'd like to see who's going to hire an 18-year-old man boy to take care of their children. That's what I'd like to know.
Well, you know what? And even an 18-year-old young girl for $180,000, somebody's got pulls in there. These are not just people off the street, most likely.
I'm waiting for the first child abuse case from that one.
Yeah, well, it'll happen. And then they'll probably call it normal, because that's what they're doing. In fact, Iran, you know, is just working out a deal to make it legal for 10-year-olds to get married. 10-year-old Iran.
In Iran. Oh.
Yeah. 10-year-old girls to get married, and I had an article about that, but I have so many things that I took that one out. But all kinds of things. Pedophilia, there are people, there are young women, there were statistics, and there are young women all over the world that are married off at extremely young age to older men, and sometimes maybe 15, sometimes all the way up to 70, 80 years old. So lots of stuff, but pedophilia is alive and well in this world. Okay, numbers, not names. Now this also was interesting to me, because there are a set of quadruplets in China. And apparently they're 6 years old now and going to school, but the mother was worried about registering her kids for elementary school and was concerned that boys' teachers would have trouble telling them apart. So what did she do? She shaved numbers onto the top of her head, into the top of their heads. She shaved their head except for enough to show the number. So you have number 1, 2, 3, and 4. She said even the father can't tell them apart. She couldn't tell them apart until they were about 18 months old. So they're numbered. There's not names, there's not a name tag, but now they're numbers. And remember what I've been telling you, they're working toward cloning people, so that you get used to looking at all these people who look alike, and now they're taking that
so
a step further. Step number 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I wouldn't want to be number 2.
Yeah, haha. So, anyway, there's lots of stuff going on out there. You've just got to watch how they're going with you. Okay, then we have UFO news. Now, this was interesting because this actually happened in 1980, but they're bringing it up again. So they're bringing it up again. There's a reason. It said Bo and Liz Berg reported seeing an elongated cigar-shaped object with 2 protrusions on each side turn 180 degrees, perform a controlled landing in the water of Lake
Namajara
in Sweden. They said, quote, "We heard this sound like an airplane cruising along without accelerating. It made a swishing sound. We figured it was a cruise missile, a Soviet missile that was off course. But it slowed down and turned, then it landed on the lake and it sank." So people, it says here, have been reported seeing unidentified objects crashing in Swedish lakes over the past 6 decades. So again, they want to get you familiar with the idea of things that are under the ocean. So you watch for more. This will continue to grow. Also, in case you want to go into outer space, Spaceport America is being built in southern New Mexico. It is the super cool, this is quote, super cool launch pad from which Virgin Galactic promises to send its first commercial spacecraft into orbit next year. And depending on its success, the spaceport could be the country's hub for all future space flights. And with that in mind, you might be interested to know that we have meeting 100-year Starship Symposium, where we have scientists, visionaries, entertainers, always entertainers. Remember, they're the programmed public icons, and the public will gather in Houston for the 100-year Starship Symposium. They're going to be meeting to discuss space travel to another star. They also have seed money from DARPA, interestingly enough, which has targeted the goal of developing a vehicle that could reach another star in 100 years, thus the name of the symposium.
No, that's just ridiculous because they have technology that can get there in minutes.
Yes, but they want to imprint you with this idea because they'll be moving that down. It's like everything goes, oh, 100 years? Oh, no, that was the 10-year Starship Symposium. 10 years? No, that was the 1-year one. So it's going to, all of it is coming into being, just like we've always been telling you. Okay, dolphins and whales. You have seen dolphins and whales beached all over the world, correct? Now we have, interesting, in freshwater on Lake Erie. Tens of thousands of dead fish along with dead seagulls washed up on the shores of Lake Erie, and yet another mysterious mass animal death. Now they're saying, is there any potential danger to humans? We don't know. We don't know what caused them. And so of course the dead fish and dead birds have been sent to the lab for analysis. Could it be something coming up from under the water, do you think?
Have you ever seen Lake Erie?
Yeah, but why all of a sudden? Tens of thousands of them? All of a sudden.
No.
And what happened in the Yangtze River, remember? When that water ran red here just a few days ago.
Oh, that's right, and they don't know why that happened.
That's correct. So again, what's under they want you to get that idea. Something's under, something's above.
I think it was magma that came up. That'd be red.
Very well be. It could be some kind of ritual that's going on in there. So watch for news of that. And it's like this. Will we ever publicly know? Maybe not, but keep your eyes out. And in my homeland, I saved the last for the best. In my homeland. Not only just Seattle, but they even hit a part of town I was come from, West Seattle. There is a buzzing sound going on, which they described as a growl, kind of creepy, and nobody can pin it down when it started. Some old-timers claim it's been happening for years. No, not so. The biologists say, guess what? It is mating fish. It's a bottom-dwelling fish with a distinct mating call. Now, do you think I believe that? Of course not.
Well, all the years in West Seattle, you never heard
I never heard a buzz. No, there's no such thing.
Although I do hear buzzing coming from you sometimes.
Yeah, that could be. Obviously, that's all my implants going off. Actually, it's a spy for you.
Probably.
Okay, then because I'm your handler. Don't forget that. The biologists believe that ship hulls or buildings in the area are acting as giant subwoofers, carrying the low-frequency sound for miles. Again, not so. Then, of course, it has to add on here that residents of Temuka, New Zealand, have also been hearing bizarre sounds this past week. Initially, the residents thought the mysterious ringing sounds were coming from a diesel tank, but no, it's a card payment system at a local truck stop.
That's a pretty loud system.
That's what I mean. They must think we're so stupid. It's unbelievable. So watch for the trends, people, because they are out there, and you know what? You're going to learn a lot more as we go along and see things. So while this may sound a little sensational, they're putting things together and they're reeling you in like a fish. So keep that in mind. Now, I do also want to remind all of you, the end of this month is going to be a super astounding event here in St. Joseph, first of its kind.
That's me in the kilt.
Yeah, that's you in the kilt. You're going to be doing the dance. But we have here coming up the end of the month, starting on Friday, the 28th, we have our pyramid storehouses of knowledge, and everybody always wants to know about pyramids because these are much different than what they're told you in your history books. We're going to tell you the truth about pyramids and what it means to you.
And how to use them.
How to use them, how to open up your own storehouse of knowledge. We also have coming in for the event, who will be presenting a 2-hour lecture, is Dr. Samir Osmanagic, who is the discoverer of the Bosnian pyramids, which Stewart and I visited in last year. And it's absolutely amazing, astounding place. His information is incredible. We have that evening concert pianist Deborah Wyndham, who is going to be gracing us with her talents, mesmerizing music. And
I could listen to her all day.
Yeah, that's why you don't get any work done. You're too busy listening to the beautiful tones.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. If you have not heard her, the CDs
Maybe
are
she's
great.
causing that humming in West Seattle.
That could
you
be.
ever think of that?
Could be.
That could be.
And producer-director Christopher Garitano will be gracing us with his presence for his premiere showing of Montauk Chronicles. He has been busy for months perfecting
Of which
this.
I am a star.
Yes, of which you are the star, I'm sure. He has been busy perfecting from what the initial showing was in Montauk, New York, all these months. So we're very excited to see the new changes and additions that he's made. He assures us this is his final product, and which you will also be, I think, carrying forward with you to Thailand, Bangkok in November.
To the International Correspondence
Foreign
Correspondence Club, something like this,
it's
in
an
Bangkok.
FTCC, I think.
You just watch your language, and definitely it will be shown at the Asian premiere in Bangkok, November.
Yeah, so we have, and you will be there to introduce it and answer questions, I believe, and giving seminars and all kinds of stuff.
And maybe even sell semen. I don't know. It's possible.
Well, then I'll have to come along if that's what you're going to do. Anyway, so we have so many interesting things coming up for you. The seminar this week, we have people coming in from all over the world. And I will tell you, it's getting booked really fast. Yeah. So we still have a few seats available.
There's a lot of people coming.
There are a lot of people coming. We still have some seats available, however. So please get your registration in. Contact Patricia if you want to know what else is going on that weekend. She'll make sure to that you get to where you need to be. And please, we do need you on our gold membership side of our site, because that's where we have a lot of our old webinars, or I should say they're not old, they're really current. Our past webinars that we've done, those are posted there. We have our blog. We have so much stuff going on the member side. If you are serious about learning hyperspace, oversoul tools and techniques and changing your life, you're going to have a gold member, because gold is where it's at. So go for the gold. That's where you want to be on expansions.com. And anything else to add?
Well, remember October is the Bear and Roses tour in Russia, and I apparently have appeared on Russian television this past week.
Well, I had a little snippet on the homepage for people.
There's a thing. I might get a Russian Emmy award. I'm not positive,
keep hoping.
There's rumors about that going around.
Yeah, you keep hoping.
Yeah.
So lots of exciting things. As you know, Stewart is now a blogger on Huffington Post. You want to be sure and check that out. I mean, we are everywhere, which is really good, because people all over the world are willing more and more to look at all aspects of themselves, positive and negative. That's what we teach you. We teach you self-empowerment, how to get in control of your mind so you can get in control of your wealth, your health, your relationships, your career, or whatever is going on in the world. Doesn't mean you have to participate in it. So expansions.com, we can show you what to do. And remember, we remind you, we are real people with real issues, and we have really worked hard to do real solutions, which we continue to bring to you and update you as we get them.
Of course, I have less issues than she does.
Yes, of course you do. We all know that. Yeah. We wrote about that. Now, Stewart has less than Janet. So yes, that's absolutely true.
That's the truth.
That's the truth. All right. So with that said, are we done?
I think I'm done.
Okay. No more semen jokes.
No, but now that's a great business idea now that I think about it. So we'll get back to you on that one. So again, Stewart A. Swerdlow for expansions.com.
And Janet Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.